Hi, I'm Zara Nash and I am the Novus Program Manager and work for the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport UK. And I wanted to spend a little time talking about your placement and what you can do to ace your placement and make the best possible impression. So I wanted to go over the settling in period and how to react to it, what to do in terms of housing, how to dress in terms of workwear, ways in which you can make a great first impression, and then a few more technical things in terms of emails, calendars, and acronyms. So we're going to talk about the settling in period, and this will usually last about 3 months. It's completely natural to feel unsettled within the first few months. I think it happens to all of us. I know it happened to me when I started my placement, as it was the first time I'd lived away from parents. So I had to deal with adjusting to independence and maturity. But the settling in period will pass, and these new experiences can be scary for all of us. Just bear with it, and it will get better. When you first start your placement, you may have different emotions. You may feel a bit nervous, a bit unconfident. Maybe you feel that you're distrusted by your colleagues because they're not giving you the level of responsibility or the caseload which you desire. This will pass as well. So the nerves will go, you'll gain more confidence within your role once you've gained that level of understanding. And then when your line managers can see, okay, you are really understanding this, they will feel far more comfortable with giving you the responsibility that you desire. But it is completely normal to feel these emotions. And again, don't worry, they will pass and you will be more confident. If you are feeling that you're quite overwhelmed within the first few months, don't worry, you can talk to someone. So whether that be your line manager, maybe you've got an assigned mentor or a buddy, your placement tutor at university, or even myself through the Novus program. It's worth talking to someone so just so you can sound out how you're feeling and let us know how you're feeling. It's amazing to be self-sufficient within a new role and to be really confident. However, it's not always expected. So if you are in doubt, just ask, as it's better to ask and get something right than to not ask at all. And honesty is always the best policy. If you have done something wrong, which is completely fine because you're new to this, you're exploring ways in which to do things, then talk to your line manager and say, I'll be honest, I've made a mistake. However, this is how I would have done it differently if given a second chance. Always better to be honest rather than trying to cover it up. So if you come across a problem and you're not sure how to solve it, you can think about a problem tree. So you could then maybe try and solve the problem by looking at your handbook. It may be if there is a previous placement student, they may have written a handover document, or there may be a handbook that's created by your line manager, which should hopefully enlist everything that you need to know. But if not, you could try YouTube, as there's plenty of tutorials on there. Maybe even just Googling something, because Google often has the answer to things you wouldn't expect. So if you try those things and it works, then great. If it hasn't worked, maybe you could speak to a colleague, someone within your team that's more settled within the department and may know how to solve your problem. If that doesn't work, then I'd say speak to your line manager and ask your line manager how to do something. As I said previously, it's always better to ask and get something right than not to ask and get something wrong. So we're going to talk about housing now. And in terms of housing, it's always useful to ask your employer if they can share the details of the other placement students that will also be doing a placement in the same location as yourself. This is a great way of then you being able to arrange to share a house or a flat together because you're both in the same position and you'll both be on the same 12-month contract. So I know for myself, when I did my placement, there were 7 of us. We'd all started at exactly the same time, and we shared a house together, and it worked amazingly. So it's definitely worth talking to students that are also starting at the same time as you. As well as that, it's also worth asking your employer if you could speak to students from the previous year that may be finishing their placement, or they may have already finished their placement. Through this, you could identify if anyone's got a tenancy that they would like you to take over, that they've tried and tested it for a year, so you know that the accommodation is good, so it's handy for you. You're also doing them a favour because the landlord can then easily switch the tenancy over to yourself. Speaking to previous students, but also colleagues that you will be working with, it's worth asking about postcodes. So finding out which are the best postcodes, but also which are the postcodes that you should probably avoid. Landlords are something that you will always need when you're looking for accommodation, because you will obviously be renting. So you could ask the company that you're going to work for if they know of any trusted landlords. It may be that there are people within their organisation that rent at the moment. That's very likely. So therefore, they would have tried and tested some landlords and can let you know who are the good ones. When thinking about where to live, it's worth taking into consideration your commute. So I know for my placement, we managed to get a house which was walking distance from our offices, which is really, really handy. Some of my housemates had a car, which was good, but then we had the option that we could walk as well. So taking into consideration your commute, links to public transport, is there enough parking? Will you be bringing a car? Will other housemates be bringing a car? And is there enough? And then taking into consideration household bills. Now, if, like me, this is your first time living out of the family home, there will be bills that you won't be aware of. So, looking at council tax, Wi-Fi, maybe housing insurance, those kind of things. Finding out from your landlord, are some of the bills included? If not, how much then is your monthly outgoings going to be? So it's worth taking all of these things into consideration. When starting a new job, it's always important to make a great first impression, and you can do this through your clothes. So, what I would say is always dress too smart. Once you've been in the workplace for a while, you've had a look around at what everyone else is wearing. Maybe they aren't dressed so smart, so then maybe you could tone your workwear down so that you're dressed in line with the level of smartness to casualness. But when you first begin, always dress smart, as you'd rather look too smart than too casual. If there are things, or like if it's an organization that has a smart casual dress code, again, dress too smart to begin with. Find out what other people are wearing, and then you could wear similar clothes. So maybe smart dresses, um, suits, shirts, and shoes. So these can be dressed up or dressed down. There are things to take into consideration with logistics and supply chain roles, such as protective workwear. So it may be that if you're working in a warehouse, you may need a high vis, you may need a helmet or steel capped boots. Some companies will give you an allowance towards things like steel capped boots, and some companies may provide the protective workwear that you need, but it's always worth looking into. If you're attending things like work socials, I would still dress smart, but you could be dressed sophisticated smart. So dress down a bit, but still make sure that you are looking your best. So smart jeans, a dress, maybe a shirt and jeans, something like that. So you're not too overly dressed, but you're also not too casual. As I've said, first impressions really, really matter. So we're making sure that you are dressing super smart for your first day, because you want to look the part. So if you can, try to remember the organisational chart, especially the people within your team. So knowing their names and the departments that they look after is essential. Try to set up one-to-ones with your teammates. So within the one-to-ones, you can ask them what it is that they do, what it is that they're working on. If there is something that they're working on and it really sparks your interest, you could even ask them whether it's something that you could get involved with too. Always try to avoid slang and always avoid swear words, as the use of slang and swear words can make you appear as unprofessional. If rotations have been advertised within the role, then it's worth asking about these and who they would be with, so you can start to network early. If rotations haven't been suggested within the job description, but it's something that you would be interested in doing whilst you're within the organisation, it's always worth asking, because if you don't ask, you don't get. So you may as well ask. I'm now going to delve a bit deeper, and we're going to go into emails. So how to create an email signature, a bit about email etiquette, how to recall messages, and how to use flags to make you more efficient. What is a signature? A signature is a body of text which appears at the bottom of a professional email. And you can do this in multiple ways. So some companies will have a template of what they want to appear in your email signature. Although some of them may even have preloaded signatures. So I know working for the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, there is a preloaded signature which will then just pop up for every email that I send. So it all depends on the companies. But if your company doesn't have a preloaded signature, then you want to set one up yourself. And you can do this by going into Outlook, opening an email, select the signature ribbon at the top of the email, scroll down to signatures, click new, then you'll want to name the signature. So for me, I have ones like you can see, so like Zara Nash new messages. And then you will fill the text in of what you want, and then make sure you press save and OK. So the things to include within this body of text could be things like your name, your job title, your email address, company name, company address, mobile phone number if you've got one, maybe a desk phone number as well if you've got one of those. And then you could also link to the company website and even social media accounts, which again, you could link. So someone then could look at your signature, click on the social media icon, and it would then take them to the specialist social media account. Signatures can be used in multiple different ways. So you can have it for when you're sending new messages, when you're sending reply messages, but you can also save template emails. So I do this quite a lot as it saves me a lot of time. So it means that I don't have to keep on writing the same thing. So things like you can see on here, like always add content. So you can see within that email template, I've put hi student. I could take out the word student and personalize that to the individual I'm speaking to. Please remember to always add content to your emails, otherwise it can look rude to the person receiving your email. I've provided a template below. So I've written all of that out so that I don't need to write that every time I write that as a response. It's already there. So I can just go to my signatures, select that one, and then that will populate itself. At the end of that email, I will have got my actual email signature, which includes my name, my job title, my email address, and so on. So it is a full email, and literally all I would need to do then is personalize the student's name. Far easier than writing it each time and saves me a lot of time. So now we're going to go over email etiquette. So you'd want to go into Outlook, select your email, and you'll open it up and it'll look like this. So you'll want to double check your to field to make sure that you are sending it to the correct person. Check their first name, their surname to make sure that the person that you're intending it to go to is the right person. Then looking further down the page, we have CC. CC stands for carbon copy. And this field, you use this if you're sending the email to somebody that doesn't necessarily have anything to action from the email, but needs to know the information within the email. Scrolling down again, you've got BCC. That stands for blind copy. So this will be used when you don't want recipients of the email to find out who the other recipients are. So for example, when I'm emailing all of my students, due to GDPR, I don't want them to see the other student email addresses. So I will put all of my student email addresses into the BCC line. You always want to use your subject area. So you want to choose a title that represents the subject of the email that you are writing. If you're going to add attachments, make sure you double check in them. So double check it's actually added, and double check like that is the most recent version of the file that you are sending. So I double click it before you send it just to make sure it is the most recent version. When you are then starting an email, you'll want to start an email with either dear, hi, or then go straight into the text. And these will be used in different scenarios. So if you've never emailed this person before, use dear. If it's somebody that you email on a regular basis and you know quite well, then use hi. If you're having an email conversation that's going on for a while, like if you've got 10 minutes of back and forth, then you might just want to go straight into text rather than having to write dear or hi for each email. At the end of the email, you want to either put regards or thanks. So if you're using dear to start, end with regards. If you're using hi to start, use thanks to finish. Okay, so hopefully that's pretty clear. You can always add the regards and thanks into your email signature so that you don't have to write it each time, but that is completely up to you. So recalling emails is useful if you've accidentally sent an email to the wrong person, or you've pressed send too quickly and you hadn't finished writing the email or anything like that. Basically, you don't want that person to have that email anymore. Now, the best way of doing this is if you remember straight away, literally just after pressing send, that, oh no, I didn't want to send that, I'm going to go in and change it. That increases your chances of the email being able to recall. If it's been a while, then the person may have seen it in their inbox, they may have opened it, and then you can't necessarily recall that email. But you've written the email, you've realised, oh no, I didn't mean to do that. Then what you need to do is go to your sent folder, double click on the email that you want to recall. Once you've double clicked on it, the email will pop up. Go to File in the top left hand corner, and then you will see a message saying, do you want to resend or recall? So I'd click recall, and then you'll see another message. So it says recall this message. Are you sure you want to? And you're given two options. So you can delete the unread copies of the message, or you could delete the unread copies and replace with a new message. So I personally would go with the top one because it's faster. So the one below, if you then take time to rewrite this email and send it, there's more chance that the person that received the email may have opened it. So I would say use delete unread copies of this message and press OK. It will then recall the email, and it will tell you whether it's been successfully recalled before the person has read it, or if the person has actually read the email. But it's always worth knowing how to recall an email. So now I'm going to go over email flags. So these are a great way of being able to prioritize your emails and to organize yourself. So you can prioritize them into a to-do list of emails. So I would add the flag according to what deadlines have been set. So it may be that you've been sent a deadline and they're saying, oh, can I have it by the end of today? So you obviously then want to flag that with today. You've got tomorrow, this week, next week, no date, or custom. So choose the flag which is most relevant to the deadline that you have been set. Always try and give work in just before the deadline if possible too. So it then adds these emails that have been flagged within your to-do list. So always check your to-do list daily to make sure that you're on top of the emails and the actions that you need to do. Obviously, as the time goes on, so if you've clicked this week, it will then prioritize that email further up your list. Very useful to keep yourself organized and to make sure you don't miss any deadlines. There is also an alternative use, and that's sometimes what I do. So sometimes I might flag an email because I want a quick access to it. So instead of having to search for that email using words or remembering which folder it's in, I could go to my to-do list, have a look at the subject line and realise which email it is, double click it, and then I've got access to that email. Okay, now we're going to look at calendars and how you can use your calendar effectively to make your work run smoothly. So you can use recurring appointments to schedule things such as like your lunch break or time in which you're going to look at your emails. So you can see on mine, so at 9 a.m. I always plan to look at my emails for at least half an hour to make sure they're all actioned. I also schedule in my lunch between 1 and 2. Just because it saves me having to do it on a daily basis. Now, I am a bit OCD about my calendar, so you can see it is very, very populated. But you don't have to do it as populated as this. I would go into your organisation and have a look at other people's calendars and see how they do it and like whether they have gaps or whether theirs is fully populated with what they're doing. I personally find it's good so I can figure out what I did and when I did it. But as I say, it's personal preference. So you can use categories to colour code your appointments, which is very useful. So you can see on mine, I have orange is my personal appointments. So lunch, annual leave, bank holidays is all appearing in orange. Red, I've selected as meetings. So whenever I have a meeting, I right click and then I can select my category, which is meeting, and it means that they'll all be colour coded red. But I've got different things. So if I'm delivering a session, it will appear as green. You can see helping with this session is like a slightly lighter orange. And then training is purple. So completely up to you which colour codes you use. But if you're quite a visual person, then the colour codes can be really handy. I would use your calendar to set contingency plans for deadlines if you want. So as I said previously, it's always good to hand things in before the deadline if possible. So you could always set a contingency plan of a week or a few days before your deadline to double check things and submit it early if you can. I would always add your annual leave into your calendar so it helps you plan your time. You could even create this appointment within your calendar and add your manager to it so that your manager's fully aware that on that day you will be on annual leave and it will appear in their calendar. Add bank holidays at the beginning of your placement. So bank holidays are always planned a year in advance. So you can put these in. And again, it will help you plan around them. So you'll know that actually I've got a deadline, but I've only got a 4-day week, so I need to bring that bit forward. Great way of organising yourself and making a really clear visual overview of what you've got to expect in your working week. Okay, so this slide is a bit heavy, and that's because it's all about acronyms. Because if you're starting a placement, there will be words that you will never have heard of. And because people have been in those organisations and that industry for years, acronyms come really, really easy to the people you're working with, and they may forget that you're new to the industry, you're new to the company, you don't necessarily know what these acronyms mean. So I wanted to be able to give you the opportunity of looking at these acronyms, finding out what they mean. There's also a link down there so you can check out more acronyms. I'll just put the most popular ones in here. And we also have the Knowledge Centre, which is like the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport's library, which is really useful for things like this and for going into a bit more detail. If there's something you're not sure of, you could always access that if you are a CILT member. So I won't go through all of them, but some of the main ones are you've got EOP, EOD, COP. They all basically mean the same thing. End of play, end of day, close of play. So if someone gives you a deadline and they say, can I please have this by EOP? They mean by 5 o'clock or whenever the end of the working day is for you. So it might be 4, it might be 5, it might be 6. Usually it'd be 5 o'clock. So there are other things like H&S used in every organisation means health and safety. PO, so that relates to finance, so purchase order and invoicing. But yeah, you've got quite a few acronyms here. Have a look at them, screenshot this slide, and really like just try and remember these as much as you can. Have them to hand when you first start your placement. Maybe keep it on your phone so you've got something to reference to, so you're not so unsure about what these acronyms are. And that is it. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you have found it useful. If there is something that you think I've missed and you really would like to know before you start your placement, or maybe you're about to start and there's something you need immediately, drop me an email. So you can see my email address is there, zara.nash@ciltuk.uk, and I will try my best to help you as much as I can. But congratulations on gaining a placement year. I wish you all the best and good luck.